Do you ever have one of those days where your hair is more dry shampoo than hair? That day is today. Hey now, hey now. I have notes today. Hello and welcome back to My Tech Wardrobe. My name is Caitlin and I do random fashion videos on the internet for fun. Also, I'm shooting this in the evening after work, so if you notice some variation in the lighting, we're just trying to keep it bright before the sun goes down. We're doing a slightly different video today because I wanted to talk about 5 films that you should watch if you're interested in fashion or if you just like ogling pretty outfits. Now, there will be probably some surprises on here because I'm actually not going to talk about the film juggernauts of fashion that are things like Clueless or Devil Wears Prada. I'm kind of staying away from those because I'm speaking specifically about fashion movies that I personally like to watch over and over again. It's not that films like Clueless and Devil Wears Prada aren't fantastic, which they are, but they're not something I go back to all the time. So here are 5 films that you should consider rewatching or watching for the first time if you are a fashion lover like me. The Lizzie McGuire movie is the most iconic film of my generation, full stop. Came out in 2003, so anyone who is now between the ages of probably like 20 and 30, maybe a little higher, this is the iconic fashion film. In my opinion, this film's got everything. It's got a getting ready scene at the beginning for school while singing into a hairbrush. It's got a fashion montage. It's got a romp around Europe with what we used to think was a cute boy. And it's got a banger of an ending song and a banger of an ending outfit. This film has a hell of a fashion montage. Now, this is where we see Lizzie come into her own, but we also see her being an igloo, being essentially a lamp, being kind of a lantern, and then kind of a mummy. I don't know how they chose the looks for this movie, but it's like chef's kiss. The scene is great. Supermodel. The song is playing in the background, of course, not the awesome RuPaul version because, like, heaven forbid we have a drag queen and some representation in a Disney film, but it's 2003, different time, I guess. This scene is so iconic. I think sometimes people forget that it's in there just because there's so much else going on in this movie, especially the ending scene, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I think it's really one to call out. So if you love fashion, especially wacky fashion from the early 2000s, this is a great film to watch. And this is a great scene to watch on repeat. And last, of course, we cannot not talk about the final What Dreams Are Made Of scene. Purple or lavender and lime green just hamming it up on the stage. It's iconic, it's beautiful, and if you want to have a truly uplifting day, you need to watch the Lizzie McGuire movie and enjoy this scene in all its glory. I just realized recently, actually, that Isabella was also wearing these knee-high sparkly boots. They're awesome. I want a pair. So highly recommend going back to those scenes and taking a look at the contrast as well, because as we know, this is what dreamy Halloween costumes are made of. Next, and by the way, these films are in no particular order, you'll notice that in a minute. Next is my favorite film of all time, not just fashion film, film. Singin' in the Rain, 1952, starring Gene Kelly, Donald O'Connor, and a 19-year-old Debbie Reynolds, who some of us may know as Grandma Aggie from Halloween Town. This was an MGM film when MGM was at its absolute peak Dream Factory phase. They were pumping out these gorgeous, sumptuous Technicolor musicals like clockwork. But this one in particular, Singin' in the Rain, took probably all the budget. The costuming in this film is just, oh, it's so good. This is another one I'm not going to talk about in detail because I want to make a whole video on it. Both the Men's and women's fashion is absolutely gorgeous. The thing about this, which is interesting, is that this is a 1950s film, but the setting is the 20s. So this is all about the incoming of talking pictures and how that threw all of the studios into disarray because they're trying to outfit themselves for sound technology. Now, this is an excellent way to get into golden era Hollywood musicals. But just know, if you start with this one, you're kind of starting with the best. So you may want to work your way up to it. Gene Kelly's iconic wool suit in the Singing in the Rain scene is perfect. In the Good Morning scene where they're all dancing in the middle of the night, all of those shades work so perfectly. And I'm still to this day trying to find Debbie Reynolds' little blue tap shoes with the bow on them somewhere, vintage or vintage reproduction, because I love them so much. But the other thing that's really neat in this is that there are sort of two big showcases for their costuming in this film. So one is the big dance ballet sequence. It's very stylized, and Gene Kelly has this really bright, vibrant yellow vest, and he's dancing with the legendary Sid Charisse, who is wearing sort of this arsenic green 20s flapper dress with stockings, and it just pops on screen. It is gorgeous. So if you want to look at iconic 20s style done by the 50s but done very well, this is a good place to start. And the last thing I'll mention is the beautiful girl sequence. Now, in high school, when I first started watching and loving this movie, the sequence was actually a bit of a skip. It's just a long song. It's not sung by any of the leads. Debbie Reynolds is in it a bit, but not a lot. But this is an excellent fashion montage. These are women dressed in an array of very sumptuous costumes for many different occasions. There's a tennis outfit, there's a bride, there's a widow. There are very interesting costuming moments here that I highly recommend you go and watch all the way through. I love this film. I love the costuming in it. Go watch it, please, if you haven't seen it already, and come back and let me know what you think in the comments below. Next is an iconic film, but iconic for fashion might just be me. Back to the Future, 1985, the first one. This is another great example of a time period doing another time period. It's 80s does 50s, but 80s also does 80s. I think it's just a really great snapshot of the exaggerated style of the 80s. Of course, you've got Marty McFly with his puffy vest and his denim and his plaid and his Nikes, and everything looks really cool. And again, Halloween costumed up. I've even been Marty McFly once for Halloween. So I think if you're really interested in the style of the 80s, this is just a really fun romp through the 80s adventure style. This isn't high fashion 80s, but it's very enjoyable nonetheless. And the other version that's very interesting in this is, of course, the 50s. So Marty goes back in time with Doc Brown to the 50s to hang out with his parents? I forget why. Why does he go back in time? To make sure his parents meet and fall in love? That's why, right? I just watched this. I'm telling you, the pandemic has addled my brain. I can't remember things anymore. And my attention span is like a flea. Is that normal? The 50s style is done so well. It's so gorgeous. And whether it's exactly historically accurate, I mean, it's pretty decent, but you know what? It's just beautiful. And I really think if you enjoy these eras, the 80s and 50s, you will enjoy the fashion in this movie, particularly Marty's mom's prom dress, which is a strapless pink, very frothy, very poofy number. When I watched this movie for the first time, just went like, whoa, it's gorgeous. It actually reminds me a lot of my own grandmother's prom dress, which I have a picture of. And she actually, the netting on top, she sort of removed it and had her mom repurpose it for a different prom. Because my grandma was very popular. She went to 2 proms. Just saying. Just like a little sweet humble brag there. But it looks very much the same. So I just think that this is a really nice romp through those eras of fashion. So if that interests you, and also if you want to see pretty much the pinnacle of a really fantastic time travel adventure movie, Go watch that right now. I mean, watch the rest of this video first and then go watch that. Don't watch it yet. Like, not right now. I have the air conditioning on. Why am I sweating? Oh, now I understand why people print their notes. Next is Sabrina, 1954. Now, I cannot have a fashion film suggestions list without including an Audrey Hepburn film, but this is not one that you might think of when you think of an Audrey Hepburn fashion film. Other ones may come to mind, such as Breakfast at Tiffany's or Funny Face. Funny Face is actually based on fashion and fashion photography. Audrey Hepburn becomes a model in that film, so she has beautiful outfits. Breakfast at Tiffany's has some of Audrey Hepburn's most iconic outfits. But I picked Sabrina for two reasons. And largely because it's kind of in defiance of these two movies. So I didn't pick Breakfast at Tiffany's because, yeah, we know it's iconic and it's great, but I don't think it actually has some of the best fashion moments of Audrey's career. And frankly, Breakfast at Tiffany's, if you have not seen it or you just selectively remember, it's a product of its time. Funny Face, straight up, not a great movie. It's got a great cast. It's got Fred Astaire, it's got some great dancing, but I think it's boring. Don't come at me, vintage film buffs, but I think it's boring. Sabrina, by all accounts, is the better movie, so that's the one I'm going to suggest to you today. And it has quite a number of iconic Audrey outfits as well. So if you haven't seen Sabrina, it is in black and white. I know. Do not fear the black and white. It's actually gorgeous, and these clothes really stand up to this medium. Sabrina essentially is kind of a coming-of-age tale. Audrey is Sabrina, who is on a palatial family estate. Her father is essentially the chauffeur, and she goes to Paris and kind of grows up a little bit, comes back, and then falls in love with one of the, spoiler alert, one of the sons of the estate. Let me see if I can get this French pronunciation. Hang on. Hubert de Givenchy. I actually think that was pretty good. Hubert de Givenchy. If you're French, please feel free to comment and or mock that pronunciation below, but I actually think I did a pretty good job. Givenchy is essentially the uncredited clothing and costume designer for this movie because he did all of Audrey's gowns. And when I say gowns, ooh, baby, they are beautiful. Even the skirt suit that she wears coming back to New York from Paris in this film is just gorgeous. It's cut perfectly. It's got this little hat. She also has a puppy just for fun. And this is the start of a beautiful fashion journey in this movie. Her sort of column white embroidered ball gown with almost I want to call it an armpit cape. That just seems wrong. But it's just this beautiful column dress that she wears on a tennis court of all places in this film. You just have to see it for yourself, so please watch this movie. She's also got a sort of midi-length, beautiful black satin dress with bows on top, kind of reminiscent of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which 100% drew inspiration from this very dress, I am sure. So this is one of those films where you just have to see it for yourself to understand how absolutely beautiful these garments are. Please, please watch it if you haven't seen it already. Please, I am begging you. This is the one on the list that even if you're sort of a fashion film buff, you may not have seen. So watch it, come back again. Let me know in the comments what you thought. Not many people I know like older movies, so the more people I can talk about them with, the better. And last, but certainly not least by any means, is Princess Diaries. The first one. Princess Diaries is one of those movies that, again, it's sort of like the Lizzie McGuire movie. If you're somewhere around my age, this is usually an iconic film for you. And the reason I picked it for this list is because A, it does have that sort of fashion makeover style scene, but it also just has a really interesting message as well. Even the casual clothes in this film are just a really delightful romp through early 2000s style. There are weird sunglasses, there's spiky hair, there's bucket hats, there are school uniforms, and I just think even before all of the princess stuff, it's just a really fun, nostalgic film to watch. I wore a uniform in high school, so it sort of brings back some memories for me. Although their uniforms were way more stylish than mine. We both wore kilts, but their kilts were like actually nice kilts. Julie Andrews as well is wearing the most, Dame Julie Andrews is wearing gorgeous, elegant old lady suits the whole way through. She's got that beautiful beige or peach ruched gown at the end, like, hello, this is a queen. We all know Julie Andrews is the queen. But Anne Hathaway, as Princess Mia, is also obviously the star of this film, the fashion star of this film as well. Now, when she gets her makeover, you know, she gets the curly hair removed. Well, not removed entirely, just blown out. Now, part of this film is a pretty classic makeover scene. They remove her glasses and, oh, she's beautiful Anne Hathaway, like, surprise, surprise. Now, obviously makeover scenes are sort of problematic in that the movie kind of tells you you can't really succeed or achieve your goals without going through a radical physical transformation to make yourself look beautiful. But I do think in this film, it's actually handled pretty well. In that one discussion between Lily and Mia after she gets the makeover. This is all about Mia sort of trying to hide the changes and then Lily getting really mad at her to say, hey, why would you change what you look like? You're just trying to be one of those popular girls. Like, how dare you? And Mia gets really mad because she said, well, I'm doing it because of a secret reason that I can't tell you, but also it makes me feel good. So, like, you know, shut up. And I think that's just a really good way of sending the signal, like, you can make over yourself just for you also. It doesn't have to be for other people. I like a good makeover montage though, as long as it's for a good reason. As long as it's for character growth and not just because the character is so hideous in the first place that they can't find love. Now, I really picked this movie because of this ending finale dress. Look at this dress. It's an embroidered, strapless, gorgeous number. She's got the tiara and the gloves. It's actually very reminiscent of the classic white column Sabrina dress on Audrey Hepburn in 1954. I do wonder how much of an inspiration they may have drawn from that. It's a different silhouette, but you kind of get the same kind of vibes. I do think it is one of the most stunning parts of the movie, and for that reason, I just think the fashion is worth checking out. She also has this, like, you know, the blue spacesuit dress, or at least that's what I called it when I was younger, that thing with the weird collar. That's the only thing in this movie where I'm like, it's very early 2000s. Very strange. It's very odd. To this day, I'm just like, I don't know about that one, but still worth watching. Well, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I really just wanted an excuse to watch these fabulous films again, and this is the result. So, hope you liked it. Add your favorite fashion film in the comments below to see if there are any that I haven't seen or that maybe others haven't seen either. What movie do you want me to talk about next? Let me know. If you like this video, consider subscribing to my channel and click that little bell notification if you want to be notified every time I upload, which is every Friday. And if you didn't like it, consider subscribing anyway, because it might, and most definitely will, be different next time. Bye. I'm talking. How does one do that like a normal human? My brain feels like mush today. Welcome back to my tech wardrobe. Mine is mine. Okay.